Hey, what's up guys? Jake with Legacy 4x4 here again, and today we're going to be starting the wiring on my 1950s Willys pickup truck off-roader thing. Alright, so as we get into this video is going to take me several days to do, at least probably a couple of weekends to knock this thing out. It's just a lot. Wiring a vehicle is not a quick process, at least not for me anyways. So this is going to take a little bit of time to do, but it will be one complete video when it's all finished. So first thing we're going to be doing as we make our wiring is building our gauge cluster. Once again, the plasma table threw some kind of error code with limit switches, and I tried to fix it for a few minutes and it didn't have an easy solution. So instead of messing with that all day, I'd rather get some progress done on wiring. So we're making the gauge cluster by hand. I've got it sitting behind me next to all the rest of the wiring parts here. For what I've started so far, I've got the cutout for the speedometer here, and then the cutout for the tachometer here, and we'll do the 4 smaller gauges along the bottom. The bigger gauges, I don't have a hole saw that is that size, so I'm just using an angle grinder and a flap disc to get these all to the right size. Everything else after that, I'll just be able to hole saw out. So those should go by a lot quicker. We're gonna get this done, find a place to put it inside the Jeep, and then we're gonna move on and do the rest of wiring. Let's knock out the rest of this gauge cluster right now, and then we'll see how it looks inside the Jeep. Alright, so y'all can see the gauge panel here, and you saw that I just finished welding one of the 2 sides of the support to it. The supports are going to get welded directly to the firewall, and then the top of this is going to get welded to a little piece of strip metal that's up at the top of the Jeep's firewall, which should be plenty of structure to just hold the gauges in place. We're going to go into the truck now, get this side tacked up into place, and then get that other support welded in, and we'll just throw a coat of paint on it to keep it protected, and we'll start installing these gauges. Alright, so you can see the gauge cluster up there, just this nice simple little mount to hold the gauges. You will be able to see the wiring from behind them as they go down to the different perspective points, but I'm okay with that for this Willys. And then back here, you can see we got the CB radio mounted. I put it on the back there just to kind of keep it away from everything. It works and looks perfectly fine back there, so that's what that looks like. I also finally bolted down the transmission cover, or at least the top half of it. I still have to make this back half of it, but we'll make that a little bit later. We got the top half all mounted down, so you can see that that's what the interior of that truck looks like. Alright, so moving on next, I've got one more panel I have to make for the inside of the Jeep. It's that back section panel where my rocker switches are going to be and where the cup holders will be. So for this, like I said, the plasma cutter is still throwing an error and I don't feel like fixing it, so I'm going to cut out this panel by hand. I just drew out the panel on this full-size sheet of steel, and we're going to just go through this the old way using a 1/4-inch angle grinder or 4.5-inch angle grinder, and we're just going to cut this thing out, and then we're going to make the rest of this panel. Let's get on to this part next. Okay, so I got that last panel all finished up. Let me go ahead and show you guys this real quick. I know I'm skipping a lot of the fabrication. That's not the purpose of this video, so I'm kind of skipping a lot of the relatively easy stuff to do. It didn't take too long to do it with the grinder, probably about an hour total to get all the holes drilled and everything else prepped, and I got the panel installed. I did make it so that the switch panel that I bought is removable. There's nut inserts in there to remove that. That way you can pull it out and service any of the wiring if something does break. And then to install the actual panel into the Jeep, just like the front half of it, it's just a 1/4 by 20 bolt with a nut on it. Pretty simple. You can reach all the nuts pretty easily when all the stuff is out of the way. Anyways, let's go take a look at this real quick. In here, it's kind of dark. Sorry, I need to get a light in here or something. But you can see that here is that second panel that we just made. It matches the first panel up there, and everything is held in with these 1/4-inch by 20 button head screws, which I think gives a nice clean look to the entire install. I know that this screw isn't down. I just stripped it out and I got to pull it out still. We got the ignition switch there. We got the 6 switch panel here, which shows volts to the panel, and it's got USB chargers and everything. That's just off Amazon, little special, nothing too fancy about it, but I didn't want to, because the plasma cutter's not working, I didn't feel like doing individual switches in here, so I just bought one of these. They're not too expensive. Back behind the ignition switch, we do have the cup holders. These are super glued into place back here, and then you can see all the bolts in the back there, and then back on the back there is the CB radio. So that's that. That pretty much completes the interior of the truck. As you can see, that was the last little panel I had to make, and knocking that out now kind of has that all finished up. You got the gauges up there, you got all your control stuff, your shifters and your emergency brake there, and then you got your electrical stuff and your cup holders back here. Pretty straightforward. Alright, so I'm out of time tonight to work. I'm just doing this after work, kind of just knocking little things out as I go. But tomorrow when I come back out here, we're going to start actually wiring in those different switches and wiring up those relay boxes. So we're going to do that next. Alright, so I got one of the two boxes done right now. I did not record putting this box together simply because it's truthfully really boring and nobody really wants to watch that. But I'll show you what the box looks like before I install it onto the truck. So I've used these boxes before in the past on the Commando. I don't like doing this. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do, but it takes about an hour to do a box. It is what it is. This is still the cheapest, best option that you can run for a truck like this if you want fully waterproof relays. It kind of is relaxing. You turn on some music and you just sit there and just kind of nug away on it. So it's not too bad, but it is a little annoying. These are relatively simple. At the top, you've got the 6 different fuses, which protect the 6 different relays that are housed in this box, and then each of the relays is all wired up exactly the same. On the back of this, you can see that there is rubber along all of these different input points, and then the little pins that come with it are just crimp pins, so buy yourself a nice set of crimpers, and then it's easy enough to do these little crimp pins. Make sure you put the rubber on first before you crimp everything together, otherwise you'll have a hard time getting that rubber back onto it. But it's pretty simple. Power comes in from main power line up top here, runs through the fuses, and then down to all of the different relays. You then have a ground for each relay as well, and then you've got switch and load. And so I wrote down what they are like I always do before I do wiring. Pin 87 is always going to be your load. Pin 85 always goes to your switch. 30 is always going to be positive power in, and then 86 is always the ground. So every single one of these looks exactly the same on the back. So once you get the first one down, you can kind of just go through and just really knock out the rest of them pretty quickly. Anyways, let's install this on the truck and then we'll start running the rest of the wires from the switch panel to this box. So this box, all of the wires for that 6-gang switch panel are going to run through this box, and then the other relay box is going to be the one that has like the starter relay and some of the other stuff that doesn't have switches for it, stuff that comes on with the accessory or run position of the truck. Let's get this installed. Alright, so we just got the back half of this all wired up, and what that entails is we have these pod lights wired, we've got the brakes wired, albeit they're not wired to the brake light switch yet because there's no fluid in the lines, so it wouldn't function. I just wired it to another relay temporarily just to check to make sure the rear wiring was correct, and we got the fans on the radiator wired. Those are the only 3 systems on the back of the truck that needed to be wired. So that was all that we did for the back half. Let me show you guys what these all look like all turned on, and then we'll talk about what comes forward next. Alright, so as you guys can see here, I have the pod lights wired to their appropriate switch. It's going to be the 3rd switch on my rocker panel, and I just wired these brake lights into the 1st switch. I did that because there's no pressure in the brake lines, and therefore the brake light switch will not work. So I just wired it temporarily to that just to ensure and test that they do work in the rear. And you're not able to see it obviously, but the fans up here on the radiator spin as well. That is also on one of the switches on the relay panel. Alright, so with the back done, let me show you guys what the wiring looks like, and I'll kind of talk through what the most basic portion of this wiring is thus far, and then I got to tidy this up and then we're going to move on to the front. But let me take you guys over to the truck now and show you what this looks like. Alright, so the lighting's not really great here, sorry about that, but as you guys have seen, the battery and the fuse box and the 2 relay boxes are inside here on a tray. I'll show you a close-up of that here in a second. I mounted on the outside of the truck right here the master kill switch. So every single system in this truck runs through this kill switch right here. So the battery positive goes from the positive terminal of battery and runs straight into this before going anywhere else. I'm not worried about like long-term running systems such as like clocks or radios, saving presets or anything like that. So if I want to kill all of the power to every single system on the truck, that way to protect the battery and make sure the battery lasts a long time, and in the event of like an accident or something, this way somebody could get out of the truck, and if I'm still inside of it, they're able to completely kill the truck from the outside of it, opposite of the spare tire over there. When you flip this battery switch over, you've allowed power into the system now. So from here, everything is then controlled through the key. So with it switched on like this though, some of the other auxiliary systems will work. So with it switched on, the winch will work, the fuse box works, things like that all work, and then the key controls the rest of the keyed functions. Moving inside to my little battery tray compartment, you can see the battery is there. I've got a red power distribution block, a ground distribution block, the 2 relay boxes, and the fuse box. So from the master kill switch on the outside of the truck, power runs into that red distribution block, giving power to auxiliary systems and also to the key and the starter and everything. The battery is grounded into the chassis of the truck through, you can't really see it, but it's right down here, right behind that hose. And that is just a bolt with a hole through it, which grounds it into the frame of the truck, providing a continuous ground. I am running all of the ground lines back to this distribution block and also doing a secondary ground for different systems on the frame itself to provide 2 types of grounding to hopefully make sure that nothing ever grounds out or gives me a poor ground. So when you flip the key, the fuse box and the relay boxes get their power, and then that allows you to turn on all the auxiliary systems. For the most part, the wiring is ran underneath this and then underneath the truck, and then everything is like zip tied to the frame rails to kind of keep it up and out of the way as best as possible. Ultimately, this is a wide open truck, so you're going to be able to see some wiring. I might eventually make a little cover for this just to kind of cover up some of these and, you know, like these different relay boxes, but it's not high on my to-do list. These are both waterproof. The fuse box is waterproof, and then sealed wires are waterproof by nature. So this should work okay in here. Now moving forward, we got to do the front of the truck. So I'm going to go and get started on that. I'm probably not going to record very much. It's not that exciting. I'm going to tidy up the back and then move forward and start knocking out the front of this. I will catch up with you guys once I get some more of these systems all wired in. All right guys, so what seems like probably the longest video I have ever recorded, we finally have all of the wiring done on the Willys. The only thing we're waiting for to completely finish this project is a couple of those adapters to run the water temperature sender and the oil pressure sender. I had to buy a whole bunch of different adapters to try to make that thing fit. Eventually I found what I think is the right ones, and those will be here in 2 days, but I want to wrap up this video, and it's not that entertaining to watch me just install some pipe fittings anyways. But let me show you guys what all of this wiring looks like on this entire truck, or from back to front, and then we'll talk about what comes next in the next video for this Willys. Alright, first off, that's my dog Brittany. I never actually properly introduced her. My wife and I adopted her about 3 or 4 months ago now from a shelter near us here in North Carolina. She was just found astray. She's about 2 years old, and she is a mix. An all-American North Carolina mutt. She loves to hug you. Loves it. Alright, so starting on the back here, we got, as you can see, the brake lights and 2 pod lights. Those pod lights are just provide rear reverse lights in the event that you need them. If it's dark out at night or something, they are controlled by a separate switch inside the cab. The brake lights are on a pressure switch that you'll see when we get to the front of the cab. We have the dual fans for the radiator. Those are both controlled by the same switch, so one switch turns on both fans to pull air through the radiator. Moving back here, as you guys seen and I talked about already, we have the whole brains of the system back here. In total, there's the battery with positive and negative, obviously. We've got a positive and negative distribution block and a fuse block there. And then we've got 2 6 relay boxes there and there. So everything runs through this little tray back here to power the whole system. Everything is fused
The relay boxes have fuses in them as well. If I can get one of these off. As you can see in here, all of the relays have their own fuses for each of these circuits, and then the circuits that don't require the relay are ran through the fuse block here, to include things also like the instrument cluster and things like that that didn't need a relay. That's all ran through there. Fuel cell sending unit is up there at the top of the fuel cell. We've got an external kill switch located here to kill the whole vehicle. All of the positive power runs through this kill switch. So if something were ever happen to the vehicle, or just as a safety precaution, or if it's being stored for a period of time, this is just a way to completely cut off the battery from everything else in the system safely and quickly. Moving inside here, we've got the 6 gauges mounted up there on the underside of the firewall / the cowl. We've got our radio mounted there. This is just a cheap motorcycle radio off of Amazon. Down in here, we have our 6-gang relay switch panel. So the relays are on the back of the cab, and then we've got the switches here to control the different systems. We have this is our keyed power switch, and then we have our momentary start switch. So I showed you guys already, but if you turn the key to the run position, all the different things light up. This shows you that power is good, and then you control all of the different systems in the truck. And if you click the momentary button, it will try to start. I don't currently have the truck ready to start. It still needs coolant and a bunch of other stuff, so I'm not going to turn it on, but I promise you it works. Moving up front here, on the passenger side, you can see here is the starter solenoid located here. This runs the starter motor located down there, with the main battery wires running along the frame all the way to the back little tray section there. We've got one of the 2 chassis grounds located here. The other chassis ground is up there. We've got the switch, or we've got the solenoid for the winch located there. Everything is grounded out. And then we've got the winch, obviously. I've got the spark plug wires plugged in, as well as the HEI distributor, all located there. This is the ignition signal wire. It's kind of tucked up back here, kind of hard to see. It comes out over the exhaust and follows the fuel line down. Up top here is the coolant temperature switch. This is the adapter that I need because this doesn't fit. And then this will just plug in there once complete. Following this harness down, this goes down to the oil pressure switch, which also needs an adapter, but it's already wired and ready to go. Following this wire loom, down here is the brake pressure switch. So this uses brake pressure to activate the brake lights, and then that wire loom follows down and back underneath the truck back to our stuff. Underneath the truck is not as clean, but everything runs kind of in one big bundle of wires, all right here, running up and then through the floor of that tray to get to the rest of the components. You can see the switch panel is up there above the transfer case, all mounted up. Alright, so on the welding table, you guys can see that we have the next set of stuff for the Willys. Next video is going to be making drive shafts. I'm doing square drive shafts using trailer hitch tubing, as well as just some regular 2x2 by 1/4 inch tubing. This is not going to be a street legal truck. It's never going to get driven on the road, and it's truthfully probably never going to go faster than about 30 miles per hour anyways. So I'm comfortable doing square drive shafts. Also, next video, we got to mount our portable air tank, and that's about it. Oh, we got some bump stops to mount too, and some other small stuff. So next video, we're going to be finishing up some small stuff, and then after that, we're going to get this truck running pretty quickly after that. If you managed to stick around for this entire video, thank you very much for watching this one all the way to the end. If you guys like the content, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next one.